What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about some of the cheapest 90 hertz and 120 hertz phones that you can pick up right now. And most of these are 90 hertz, but the first one is actually 120 hertz, is the POCO X3. This phone is crazy cheap for $250, and yeah, I've been playing with it for around a week now, and it's a really good phone. So to me, the design is okay. It's kind of a unique design. It hasn't really grown on me that much, especially the camera module thing, but it's a plastic body and it feels super solid in the hand. Also a nice feeling phone. It has a nice weight to it because it's got such a massive battery, but you do have an IP53 splash proof, so you cannot get this like submerge it, but you can get it wet in the rain or something like that. You have an IPS 120 Hz HDR10 display. It's a 6.67 inch display, 1080p 395 for the PPI. It's actually a pretty good display. It's got the little punch hole. You get really good colors. It's fairly bright outdoors as well. So overall, I just had no issues with the display. The 120 hertz is just buttery smooth. It really does give you an experience where it just feels like the phone is just not missing a heartbeat. It's just really fast feeling. So you do have Android 10 on top of MIUI 12, and MIUI 12 is fine. It's got a few little bugs in it, but overall I really like MIUI 12. It's got a lot of customization options as well. And you have the Snapdragon 732G and Adreno 618. Basically, this is like a mid-tier gaming phone. If you want to do that, you'll be able to play sort of like high to medium settings. You won't be able to max everything out, but you have micro SD support, 64 gigs of internal storage, and 6 gigs of RAM. With this guy, you have stereo speakers, and also the headphone jack is on board with NFC, and you have an infrared port on here as well. And like I said, you do have stereo speakers, which are really nice and loud on here. And the cameras, so the cameras are actually pretty good on here for this price point. It's got a quad camera setup, 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel ultra wide, a 2 megapixel macro, and a 2 megapixel depth. And you also have 4K video, a 20 megapixel selfie that also shoots in 1080p. Overall, you're getting some very crispy photos with that 64 megapixel main lens. When you zoom in, dynamic range, detail, again, is all there. It's got pretty good color science as well. The ultra wide takes pretty good photos too. And you have those two other lenses to play with. The macro is really fun, and the depth sensor for portrait photos. The selfie camera is also pretty decent as well. So the fingerprint scanner is on the side on the power button, which is something that I absolutely love. I think it's really the best way to do a physical fingerprint scanner, or the best spot to put it. And you also have a massive 6,000 milliamp battery. Basically, your screen on time should be somewhere around 9 hours of screen on time. So this is just going to be a beast for battery life, and you also get pretty fast charging at 33 watts. Next is the Realme 6 Pro. This is another really great phone. Costs around 300 bucks on Amazon. Again, all links will be down below. And yeah, this is a really nice phone. This actually has a glass back on it, plastic frame, so it just feels really nice in the hand. Kind of has a premium feel to it, and a very kind of cool, unique design to it as well. This one has an IPS 90 hertz display. It's 6.6 inches, 1080p, 399 for the PPI. This does have the little double punch hole on it, which it does make good use of it because you have that dual camera setup, but some people don't like that. But it really comes down to you. But the display is fine. It's 90 hertz. Again, very smooth display on here. So when you're scrolling, everything is just going to feel buttery smooth as well. You do have Android 10 with the Realme UI. I've never had any real problems with Realme UI. It's pretty great. It kind of reminds me of MIUI actually. You do have the Snapdragon 720G and Adreno 618 chip on here as well. Again, these are like mid-tier chips, so you won't be able to max things out, but you can play most things on high to medium settings, so gaming will be fine on this phone as well. Micro SD support is on here, 64 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM is on here, as well as the headphone jack. No stereo speakers, but you do get a pretty nice loudspeaker on here, which I was pretty satisfied with. And you also have NFC on this guy as well. Now this phone also has the quad camera setup. It's a 64 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel telephoto, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro. You get 4K video, and again that dual camera setup up front, 16 megapixel selfie and 8 megapixel ultra wide. So if you want to take like group selfies, that would be really great for that. But the cameras on the Realme 6 Pro are pretty good as well. You get good amount of detail, dynamic range is solid. I was really satisfied with this. Video on here is actually pretty good too. So again, none of these cameras are going to be like Pixel or iPhone level, but for the price range that they're aimed at, I think you'll be perfectly fine with taking photos with these guys. So you do have the fingerprint scanner. It is side mounted as well, which is really nice. Again, absolutely love that implementation. And this one has a 4,300 milliamp battery with 30-watt fast charging. Basically, it's not going to be as good as, you know, the first phone we looked at, but this is going to get you all day battery life easily. So you know, even if you're a heavy user, you should be able to make it through the day with this phone, no problem. I didn't have any problems with it. Next is the OnePlus 7 Pro. Guys, I'm still using the OnePlus 7 Pro as my daily driver, and I'm not planning on switching even going into next year yet. This is still an awesome phone. You can pick it up renewed for $350. I think brand new is $400, but yeah, this is still a very awesome phone. This is the best phone on the list in my opinion. So you have a glass back aluminum frame on here, a beautiful no notch AMOLED display, 90 Hz HDR10, 6.67 inches, is 1440p, 516 for the PPI. Absolutely beautiful display, the best display on this list because you don't have any intrusion, and it just gives you a effect where when you're holding the phone, it just feels like a screen in the hand. So you do have the latest version of Android, or you will have Android 11. Oxygen OS is on here, one of my favorite skins. It's very clean. The Snapdragon 855 and Adreno 640. This is still a flagship chip. You will be able to play games maxed out, no problem on this phone. So whatever you want to play, you will be able to do that on high. The downside with this phone, there's no micro SD support, which sucks, but you do get 128 gigs of internal storage, which should be enough for most people. You do get 6 gigs of RAM on here as well, so you'll be able to multitask just fine. This does have stereo speakers, which are fairly loud. I've never had a problem with it. Also, another thing that I wish this phone had was a headphone jack. It does not have one. You also have NFC on board as well. The fingerprint scanner is built into the display, and it is very fast. OnePlus makes some of the best in-display fingerprint scanners, so no issue with that. You can also use the face unlock with the pop-up camera. And the cameras on here are pretty good. So you have a triple camera setup. It's a 48 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. You get 4K video, 30 or 60 FPS, and then the selfie is 16 megapixels. Overall, with the updates that they've made to the camera, you get some pretty nice photos, pretty good color, pretty good detail, dynamic range. They've really fixed the cameras with the software update, and you can also install Gcam on this phone as well. So you do have NFC on board with this guy too, and you have a 4,000 milliamp battery with 30-watt fast charging, no wireless charging. I'm able to get through the day no problem still with this phone. You will get around 8 hours of screen on time with this guy, depending on whether you're a light user or not, but yeah, so pretty good battery life. Overall, one of my favorite phones. Next is the Pixel 4. Now the refurbished version on Amazon is like $330 right now, and it's a really good deal. This is a super solid phone. It's got the best camera on this list, so if you want a 90 Hz phone that's kind of cheap with really great cameras, this is the phone you're gonna look at, or you can get the XL if this is too small. Yeah, so basically you have a premium design on here. It's glass back, aluminum frame, IP68 dust and water resistant, POLED 90 Hz display. This is one of the more compact phones at 5.7 inches. So if you have smaller hands, this will be good for you. 1080p 444 for the PPI. A pretty nice display actually. It's really color accurate, and gives off some really nice deep blacks. One of the things I like. The main thing with these Google phones is that you get updates really fast. You get the pure stock version of Android. So when Android 12 comes out, you know, you'll be one of the first ones to get it. So if you're really about getting software updates fast, you'll like this phone. The Snapdragon 855, Adreno 640, again, the same thing with the OnePlus 7 Pro. So you'll be able to game at high settings with this phone. These phones do get hot, so I would recommend like a case or something like that, because in my gaming test, the phone got kind of like not like burning, but it got hotter than a normal phone would. You do get micro SD support, 64 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM on here. You do have stereo speakers as well. This phone does not have a headphone jack, but the stereo speakers are actually really nice, high quality. You do get NFC on board, as well as some really good Face ID on here too, so that's really awesome. And this phone comes with NFC. The cameras on here, so you have a dual camera setup, 12.2 megapixel standard, 60 megapixel telephoto, no ultra wide, so that was kind of like the bummer when this phone came out. You get 4K video with an 8 megapixel selfie as well. Again, you're getting the best photos on this list. The Pixel 4 really blew me away, and everyone I showed just takes some really great photos, from the color to detail, dynamic range, whatever. Video is also super solid on this phone as well. So overall, just some of the best cameras. So you do have the 2800 milliamp battery, which battery life isn't going to be crazy. So you get 18-watt fast charging, wireless charging, but battery life is like, I think I got like 7 hours of screen on time, and I imagine if you're a heavy user, it's probably like 6, which isn't too bad for that battery size. But yeah, so you can get through the day, probably with this phone. Just depends on what kind of user you are. Last on the list is the OnePlus 7T. This comes in at $400 even, and this is also a very good phone. You have a premium design on here, glass back, aluminum frame, fluid AMOLED display. It's HDR10 plus. Is a 6.55 inch display, 1080p, 402 for the PPI. Overall, it has a little water drop notch. And yeah, if you like OnePlus phones and you're not really sold on the 7 Pro, this is a really good phone. You also have the latest version of Android, Oxygen OS on here. The Snapdragon 855 Plus, so it's a little bit faster than the 7 Pro. But you do have the Adreno 640, but basically you get the same performance with gaming. You will be able to max out everything. This does not have any SD card support, 128 gigs of storage, and actually 8 gigs of RAM, so this is going to be really awesome for multitasking and stuff like that. You also do not have the headphone jack, some pretty loud stereo speakers on here from what I've seen, and NFC is on board, as well as the fingerprint scanner under the display. This phone also has a really good camera system, a triple camera setup. I do think from what I saw, the cameras do seem a little bit better than the 7 Pro. It's a 48 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel telephoto, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide. You also get 4K video, a 16 megapixel standard, 1080p. So again, if you want like better cameras than the 7 Pro, I think these are a little bit better, but not by much. You do have the 3800 milliamp battery on here with 30-watt fast charging, and you also get pretty good battery life on here from what I've seen. Definitely all day battery life on here. So this is a very simple phone. If you want, again, a OnePlus phone, you don't want to spend too much money on the newer ones, this still gives you a lot for the price. So be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.